Jean-Luc, shorty specs, mysteries on the holodecks, asteroids, triple droids, telepathic betazoids, transporter, deadly claw, visitor from LA Law, photons, no Kirk, captain has gone berserk, shuttlecraft, Council Troy, Dr. Crusher's little boy, Klingon rights, parasites, new heights, phaser fights, Data's head, Tasha's dead, Riker's hanging by a thread, celebration, transformations, everyone to battle station. Start the series. It's the next generation on your favorite station. We didn't start the series, but when we are gone, it'll still be on. We didn't start the series. It's the next generation on your favorite station. We didn't start the series.
So, Spice, is that you?
Yes, it is me. I meant to call in a few minutes ago, but I got put on a production call, and I am so sorry. I just told the producer, like, crap, I got to go. So, I'm so sorry for being late. But how are you? Who am I speaking with, Jim?
Well, you're speaking with Jim right now, and that's okay. You know, we are more important than any production company, so that's absolutely understandable.
Yeah, you are. I know, you are. Trust me. I just demonstrated that.
We were talking about Star Trek V. The phone number here, guys, is 646-668-2433. If you have a question for SpiceWilliams Crosby, please give us a call. 646-668-2433. We will be here for just about an hour. So give us a call, and don't be afraid to ask any question you might have. The only dumb question is the one you don't ask. So Star Trek V just turned 30 years old, and I thought, why not celebrate that movie? Now, last time that we had you on, you were on with Leslie and I on Stunt Treks, and we were talking about stunts and Viva Las Vegas and all these things. But I just wanted to talk about Star Trek V and celebrate the awesomeness of that particular movie. So I thought it would be great to have you on to share some of your memories and some of your thoughts about Star Trek V and what it was like working on that movie, working with William Shatner, and just go from there. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Excellent, because it's one of my, there's some things you do in life that are just memorable. I got a few of those things, times where I died on an operating table, another time where I posed for a 30-foot bronze statue that's in front of the U.S. Olympic Training Center representing all the past, present, and future athletes. They're having my child, getting married. These are magnificent moments, and finding out that I had an audition for Star Trek V. That was... and then getting the job. It was, nobody realized that I'm a Trekkie, that during the 70s I was on the road with my own rock and roll group called Sugar and Spice, and I was madly in love with Captain Kirk, and we just rehearsed, and then at 4:30 all the musicians shut their machines down and just went home. The whole strip in Las Vegas used to say, "What's going on?" And we'd all say, "Hey, Star Trek, man, we got to go watch it." We were all addicted, absolutely addicted. So for me to even, that's talking about the 70s, for me to get up to 1988, 1989, when my agent said, you got a job, you got an audition in Hollywood at 5:30, I'm like, 5:30, please, the traffic can't. Is it that important? She goes, well, it's for Star Trek. I said, I'm there. Just bye. Where? So it was what can I say? I'm a Star Trek fan, freak, and I'm a little biased. I love the original crew. So, but I'll be more than happy to tell you guys anything, good and
bad. And I know that Charles did a little research on you before the show, was sharing some interesting facts that I wasn't aware of. And I know Charles has a question that he wants to ask. I think he has a couple questions, Charles. So why don't you shoot and ask Spice your question?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd immediately go through and say, I got to think way back when, which channel was Star Trek running on? Was it CBS or was it Channel 5?
Well, I was in Las Vegas when I was watching it, so I don't. Oh, man, you. Well, how old are you?
You're not
52.
supposed to ask a woman her age.
I'm not asking her age. I'm just saying I'm in my 50s. I remember.
Oh, well, I'm older than you, brother. So, and I don't know, man. I have no. Maybe it was on Channel 2. You think it was probably Channel 2?
I don't think we had a 2. Might have been 3 then.
Oh,
But,
3.
okay.
Yeah, that's my lucky number. It's probably 3. I don't know. I just I had a roommate, Mary Welch, and she a magnificent singer. So we had this condo, and I would just get in the car, slam home, and the minute I walked in, she already had it on for me. So God only knows.
Well, one of the movies I looked back in, seeing you in, saw that you were in. I'm curious some of your memories of that. I know a couple of our other members would be interested in hearing stories from the movie Lost Boys.
Oh, Lost Boys, yeah. I had a lot of fun. Well, I did stunts. And if you remember all the motorcycles on the sand, the beach at night, and every time they had these motorcycle people having to have to jump out of the way, and motorcycles were jumping over our bodies on the beach and stuff like that. So I basically was just a stunt person for about 2 weeks on that show.
Oh, man, for such a great movie.
Oh, yeah. No, it still holds up today. You could rent it and watch it today. It still holds up.
Oh, I can imagine. I love that part of California anyways. And then I was looking through some of your credits, and I teased the guys with a copy of the video in our chat feed. And I'm curious about any stories from your stunt work working with Meatloaf. And I'd lie for you, and that's the truth.
Well, that's an interesting situation in my life. It was very dangerous. I was doubling the actress, myself and another stunt guy. We had to be in a raft, and the helicopter threw down a rope, and we had to grab it. Yep. And just as the raft goes off, we swing up. We were swinging through 350 feet of mountainous stuff, and it was very dangerous. The helicopter almost crashed several times, and it was 120 degrees. And we had a AD on that show that just kept yelling. And my husband was with me. It was our anniversary weekend, and we had a 2-year-old kid. And it was 14 hours of very difficult stuff. And at the very end of the day, we wrapped and we sent the helicopter back, but the AD insisted that we pull one of the pilots out and put a DP in so that he could get some beauty shots. And we really didn't need beauty shots, and it was dangerous because it was twilight. And my stunt coordinator at the time was totally against it, and there was a big argument. But the AD kept screaming, and he won out. And as a result, that helicopter took off to base camp to get beauty shots, and the skids hit a high wire. And just as my car was turning the bend, my husband and me and the kid, that helicopter slammed into the mountainside and right in front of our car. And I spent the next 4 hours trying to pick body parts out of that crash and find the helicopter's head, and it was truly a nightmare. My husband couldn't handle that stuff. He was just freaking out. I handle it a lot better than most people because I worked in the morgue, and I just, as a stunt woman, you learn how to shut your emotions off and stuff like that. But then the next day I had to go, everybody prayed and everybody had their little service. But then the next day I had to go up into a DC-9 in a red dress, and I had a cable around my wrist, and I was hanging out of that DC-9, and we had to fly around for like 20, 30 minutes, and I was like, wow. I mean, it was really pushing the envelope on that show, and it was for a music video. It was insane, and I really liked the music video, but we were on the horse galloping, and that helicopter was, they're not supposed to be anywhere near 100 feet from you, and that helicopter was like 50 feet from us. Every shot we did in that music video was illegal, and dangerous. And when I say life-threatening, yeah, 2 people died on that set in front of me. So so it's quite. You don't forget that stuff. That was a job.
Yeah. Oh, you bring new meaning to that video.
Yeah.
I can see it now looking at that. It's a very Indiana Jones like video.
Yeah, that's what it was supposed to be, Indiana Jones type stuff. But I swear to you, every shot that we did was dangerous, and I was like, well, damn, I hope I can live through this one.
So, Spice, when you were working on Star Trek V: The Final Frontier, did you get a chance to ever meet Gene Roddenberry when you were working on that film?
Oh yeah, are you kidding me? And he loved me. He said I was a ballsy broad. He loved me because I was very much like Majel too, and he wanted me and Todd Bryant so badly for The Next Generation. He told us all about it. And I'd go in and have lunch with him. He was so awesome. I can't even begin to tell you how much love and respect I had for that man. But, you know, when he died, Rick Berman came in and just pretty much put a blindfold over everything Gene Roddenberry wanted to do. And if Gene Roddenberry loved me and Todd, he was bound and determined to make sure we never worked in his shows.
Now, when William Shatner was on set filming and directing, did Gene Roddenberry come along and help out and give him pointers, or did William Shatner just kind of go with it on his own?
Well, William Shatner was awesome. I love Bill. He got along with everyone. I love the way he directed because he directed like an actor, not like a traffic cop. You know, some directors are just like, stand here, there's a light, this, and that. But Bill would always go, you're moving. Why are you moving? And I go, because it says it in the script. And he goes, no, you don't move for that reason. You have to have something internal. You know, he always talked like an actor, which I loved. And Gene would come on, and they were just, they were wonderful together. It was beautiful. What they said in private, I have no idea, but you could tell that there was a camaraderie there. And I eventually did work Deep Space Nine as a Klystronian, and I did stunts, and I doubled Jerry Ryan on Voyager, but I could never play a character because Rick Berman was never going to have that happen.
Now, did William Shatner get any directing advice from Leonard Nimoy while he was working on Star Trek V that you're aware of?
No, not that I'm aware of. I have no idea. But I do remember sitting in the trailer getting my makeup done. The first day took 9 hours. After that, we got it down to 6. But I remember Leonard came in pretty pissed off one day with his ears and threw them down, and Wes Don and Jeff Don were our makeup guys. And he said, I'm getting so many letters that my ears are not the same length that they were in the last film, and I don't want that to happen again. And I was just like this little crawling up in a ball in my chair thinking, oh, God, I hope he just turns and walks out. But he didn't. Then he turned and faced me and pointed to me, and he said, and you, young lady, if you don't get that Klingon language right and we start getting a bunch of letters, you're not going to want to hear the end of it. So I was under a lot of pressure to make sure that every I was dotted, every T was crossed, and every spit was, just right. So, I mean, in the long run, we wound up being beyond perfect. Todd Bryant and I practiced, rehearsed, and did everything for 3 months. And I used to make lunch for Todd. The best way to get an actor to rehearse is just promise him you'll make him lunch. So Todd would come over 3 days a week, and we would rehearse, write out our lines. We would speak the language. We would define, the who, what, why, where, what's the subtext, all that takaka. And I mean, we worked really hard, and I took the audio tape, little tape that I had and put it in my car. I remember my radio had a push button to repeat it, and I broke that because I used it too much. And then I remember I'd be at the gym, practicing my lines as I was in the mirror going, push that, take off. And I mean, I'd be spitting all over the mirror, and people would go, okay, Spice was here, because you can see the spit all over the place. But I just knew I was under pressure for two reasons. One, I couldn't let down I loved Star Trek. I couldn't let that down. I couldn't let Captain Kirk down. I had pressure. This is the first time they ever had Klingons speaking back and forth. They barked commands, but this was a big, big thing for them. Paramount wasn't sure. They were not treating Bill with great respect. And so Todd and I knew that if we weren't perfect and we weren't absolutely right on creating a world that they had never seen before, that it could be death for Bill Shatner, because Bill was pulling this whole thing together. So we wanted to be on the Bill Shatner team and make sure that he was equally as happy with us.
And I think that the Klingons in Star Trek V are incredibly awesome. They're unlike Klingons that we've ever seen before. They're almost like biker Klingons, maybe. They're biker Klingons. They're.
Well, I remember telling Bill that I'm going to build I'm going to bring my waist down to 21 inches. I'm going to build my biceps out to 13 and a half inches. I said, Bill, I'm going to give you a special effects that your own special effects team cannot give you. And I'm going to create this character. And Todd Bryant said the same thing. They wrote what they wanted to write on paper, but Todd and I created our characters. We also had a love interest backstory that they never had. We knew it would come out in our behaviors and how we related to each other. Nobody really knew what we were doing, because they never had a rehearsal, other than Bill asked us to come to the studio once so we could get the dry blocking out, and then maybe where the camera blocking would be. But nobody really knew the work that Todd and I were doing that eventually came through. We had some really wonderful scenes, too, that got cut, which to this day pains me. But I mean, I think it all worked out. It's in People magazine, it gave a review on Star Trek and said the best thing about the entire movie were the Klingons.
I agree. I think the Klingons were awesome. I loved Charlie Cooper as General Cord, and
yes.
You guys speaking Klingon was awesome, and your relationship. Actually, they carried you guys. Your two characters did have that relationship in the comic books later on. Listen, guys,
that's where they got it.
We have SpiceWilliams Crosby, who played Vixis in Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. We're talking about Star Trek V for its 30th anniversary. Give us a call at 646-668-2433. If you have a question for Spice, we would love to hear from you. 646-668-2433. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to carry on our conversation with SpiceWilliams, and I'm sure that Eric has a few interesting questions that he'd like to ask Spice, and we're going to get right to that as soon as this commercial break is over. Don't touch that dial. Don't go away. We have SpiceWilliams. We have Klingons. We have lots of fun. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jamie from Trek Talking, here to invite you to join us for the best sci-fi themed podcast. Our elite team of Trek-experts are here to discuss Star Trek and sci-fi themed content. Call 646-668-2433 Thursday nights from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Coast Time. We can't wait to hear from you. Live long and prosper.
Okay, and we're back with SpiceWilliams, Vixis from Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. And Eric, do you have any questions you'd like to ask Spice about Star Trek V or Klingons?
Yeah, I sure do. Thanks for coming on the show, Spice. It's great to have the opportunity to chat with you here.
Oh, great, Eric. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really, I just watched Star Trek V again last night because I wanted to make sure I was all brushed up on my lore for today. And
that's great.
And then what I did was I went and I watched something that I had never seen before, which was the that Klingon couple short from the Star Trek V Special Edition DVD, which of course
with
had
me and Todd.
With you and Todd, and that had some of the information that you were just discussing here a second ago, which I was really interested in, which was the kind of not quite on-screen relationship between Vixus and Claw. So I guess my question start with, when you were developing this character, it sounds like you were kind of given maybe a character shell, but not really a whole lot of information. I'm curious as to what the studio gave you, and then what you developed, and in particular with regard to, what were Vixus's actual ambitions? Was her ambition to kind of rule from the shadows through Claw? Was she always manipulating Claw? Was she actually in love with Claw? I'm interested in a lot of that stuff.
Wow, those are all good questions. Well, I'll tell you what the studio gave us. About 16 pages of dialogue that I had no idea what it meant. It was just all Klingon, and then they had to. Then Mark Okren was flown in to translate, and he gave us all the phonetic stuff and said that. And then I actually had him fly in personally to put his hands in my mouth to show me where my tongue's supposed to go. I mean, Todd Bryant picked this thing up so fast. I was ready to knock his block off. But I speak Spanish, sign language, that's about it. But I don't do this crap very well. I am not a linguist type person. So I had to really struggle with some of this stuff, but it had to be right. And Mark Okren kept saying, you got to spit out of the side of your mouth. And I go, how do you spit out of the side of your mouth? And he'd put his hand in my mouth for what the would, it's just, and the TH. And he had it all phonetically out. This is before the dictionary came out. So there was actually just barking commands. It was, do this, and I'd say, yes, this is this is that. So when Todd and I sat down, I said, well, that's going to be really boring. And he said, yeah. He said, let's define our characters. So in acting, we always ask the who are we, what are we, who, what, why are we here, what are we doing, who, what, why, where are we, who, what, why, where, and how. How are we going to get what we want? And then the conflict, and then where is the love? So in breaking down any kind of scene, it's not about the lines. It's really about the subtext. So we knew we'd be saying words that other people wouldn't know, but you should be able to get the message through our underlying subtext. So we decided that we were lovers. We decided, do we brush our teeth? And then Todd goes, Klingons don't brush. So we had this whole thing about we've got to write down to how we eat, what we do, and that, but my personality is I'm a very strong woman, and that's why Captain Claw was attracted to me. But in our Klingon world, women can't rule the world. It's a chauvinistic society. So I would rule the universe via Captain Claw. And I manipulated him, like when I say, what is it? Intag Dishkark was Tulube, John Metmaj, Wopmaj, Poptin La Hochtin Push. You would be the greatest warrior in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Yes, exactly.
Well, you would be the greatest warrior in the galaxy if you could kill Captain Kirk. So yeah. I was feeding Captain Claw, feeding him these things. So was I manipulating him? Well, yeah, I guess. But, he wanted to hear it anyway. So, because he was power hungry too. He was a young buck. So we pulled all that stuff together. Now, it's funny that you said that it showed a relationship in the comic books. That's an end result of what we put together. They saw that this was a relationship, but on the paper, there was nothing written in the paper that we had a relationship at all. It was just woman first officer, Klingon, man captain.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. I mean, what was it like just going into the role at all, knowing that at that time there had not been a lot of representation of Klingon women at all? I mean, we had Mara from the original series from Day of the Dove, but I don't think there was a lot to look back on. So you were sort of blazing a new trail, so to speak, on that front too.
Well, I was blazing new trails, but I'd been a trekker since the late 60s. So I had already been part of that world. I'd already fantasized and imagined myself. I mean, I wanted to be an actress when I was 3 years old. I was memorizing all of Joan Crawford's and Agnes Moorehead's words and Betty Davis. I mean, I have this active imagination that when I close my eyes, I'm there. So I always imagined, full disclosure, I always imagined that I would be Captain Kirk's girlfriend. So when I found out I was going to be a Klingon, I actually said, can't do this. There's no friggin' way I'm going to play a Klingon. They hate Captain Kirk. My agent said, shut up. I said, I can't play this, Carmela. I can't play this. She goes, why? I said, they want me to play a Klingon. She goes, I don't even know what a Klingon is, and shut up. So in my mind, for all these years, I had already fantasized of being part of this world, and I just had to switch gears, thinking that, now I'm not going to be his girlfriend. Now I'm going to be someone else's girlfriend, and I want to kill him. And but to be able to, as we rehearsed, we started morphing. Todd and I started morphing. He learned his lines. I learned my lines. We helped each other. And then when we both got to the point where he would say his line, we were going to do the whole script. And then I said, okay, say your line. And he said his line. And then I went like, are you finished? And then it just dawned on us that we both had to learn each other's lines. Otherwise, we were never going to be able to get through this scene. And Bill was extremely nervous. The studios were pressuring him because he was 3 days behind. And he had already had some problems with one of the other actors on the show who she didn't learn any of her lines, and he was pissed. He's a consummate professional. And so here we were. The pants that they made for me weren't right. They put me in, they did make the vest at 21-inch waist, which I only got down to 23 inches, so it took 3 women to squeeze me in, and I had to practically let all my air out. And they told me I'll never be able to breathe, and I said, that will work for my character. And, I mean, I'm already late getting to the set because I had 3 women that had to dress me. The tensions were so high, and I can't even begin to tell you, as I was walking from my honey wagon to the studio, Bill looked at me and just said, you're late. And I was like, but I wasn't going to say anything because he was talking, I was a Klingon then. He meant nothing to me. I had already transferred my whole thoughts into Klingon. And when I walked in, I found my counter. I looked at all the electronics and all the other Klingons next to me. I saw Todd walked in. Todd just looked at me and gave me a wink. We knew we weren't going to talk because if we talked, we would be Todd and Spice. But we needed to be Klingons. And so everybody was around. I think there were studio heads there, too, because this was a big day. They were all freaked out. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work out? And there were a lot of words, shut up, a few F-bombs here and there and some stuff, just, silence. It was tense. But it only added to the way Todd and I felt because we're Klingons. We love tense. And the minute everything quieted down, it was really quiet. And Bill said, action. Todd walked in and he did his thing going right to his scope. And I said my lines and we started, and it was like magic. It was so much like magic that I didn't even think I was. Look at Todd. He's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed surfer-looking dude, and he walked in looking like Captain Claw. I didn't even recognize him, so it was great. I recognized him only as Captain Claw, and he recognized me only as Vixus. And it's kind of like, you don't see the bride on her wedding, before her wedding, and then you see the bride walking down the aisle. That's pretty much the way Todd and I felt at that moment. And when he finally said, we finished, and we looked at each other, and then Bill said, cut, and there was dead silence, absolute dead silence. And then Bill went, that was fucking great. Oh, my God. He started screaming. Everybody started applauding. I mean, everybody, the applause and the screams, everybody was just blown away. And Todd and I were like shaking our heads like, wow, what did we just do? And then Bill said, that was so great, guys, but problem is I don't know what you said. So can you do it in English? And Todd and I were like, no, we can't. We have to see the English all over again because for 3 months we've only learned the Klingon and the subtext. So we had to have the script supervisor come over, show us the English, and I practically was reading English from the script because I only knew the words in Klingon. I didn't know them in English. So we got an idea of what we were doing, and he was like pleased. And I guess Melanie wrote in the book, the behind the scenes or the making of Star Trek V, said that Todd Bryant and SpiceWilliams were so well rehearsed that they pulled the movie. They were 3 days behind. They literally propelled the movie 3 days ahead.
Well, that's a fantastic story of an actor just falling so much into the character that it all just becomes part of your immersive world. I love that. So I guess speaking of that, you know, I mean, you got so into the character and you developed, the two of you developed those two characters so much for the movie. Did you ever think about what happened to Claw and Vixis after they apologized to Kirk at the end of Star Trek V? Where do they go from there?
Well, we were, you know, Gene Roddenberry wanted us for other things, but we never got the opportunity to do it. So for me, we would have been a great professional team, and there would have been some probably kinky Klingon sex. I don't know. Todd and I are still, Todd's my brother. We are incredibly close, and his wife, Selma, and they moved to Florida, and I don't know if a week goes by that we don't talk, and he's a great stunt coordinator. He doubles Will Ferrell and does all his movies, and he's a complete health freak like I am, and he's Uncle Todd. I mean, it's just amazing that Todd and I met each other in 1989, I guess it was. And he's never left my life, and I love him with all my heart.
Has either one of you ever learned how to fight with a bat'leth?
Well, you know, I'm a martial artist, and I do hand-to-hand combat. I have 3 black belts, and I'm certified in 3 different countries, Israel, Puerto Rico, and Guatemala. And I work with a lot of knives, sticks, machetes, swords, staff. So I just have little bat'leths, but trust me, I've had things similar to that I've played around with, and I think it's an amazing weapon. Are you kidding me? I wish I had one for my home.
So as a person who understands weapons and you know, kind of gets them, what is it that you like about the bat'leth?
Because it's a push-pull. You actually pull one side, push the other, where you can connect, rip, and then rip out as you pull that side, and then the other side will push in. So it's a push-pull weapon.
So does that mean that you're able to use your energy more efficiently, or is it more of rather than being kind of a flow-through, you know, where you want to carry your momentum through, is it more like you're kind of stopping yourself and turning around and going in the opposite direction, or, you know, do you understand my meaning?
Well, it's not it's like cane. Have you ever seen the Japanese carry canes? And cane is a very effective weapon. It looks like a cane. Trust me, it's awesome. But one side has a hook, and when you're doing that, you are pulling. Let's say the side with the hook, you're pushing that in as you're pulling the base out, and then you can torque it any which way you want and then shove it. It's a multifaceted weapon that allows you to attack many areas at one time without letting the weapon go. And the hooking and like with a bat lift, you can hook and then also stab, and then you can take it vertically and take it straight up, which I love doing stuff. It's kind of like if you ever were, you know what a karambit is?
No, can you describe it?
A karambit is a Filipino knife where you flip it out and it's curved, and you can flip it around someone's neck and slice their neck, or flip it down and take it straight up their legs. And it's now where you can just stab them with it. It's a very effective knife, and I teach that and work with that too.
That's fascinating.
I never thought about that. Maybe a bat lift is kind of like a karambit, only a karambit is only one side, so it would have two sides. I don't know. It's get me all excited now talking about weapons.
Well, it's the kind of stuff that I love to talk about, because it's not the thing that you necessarily, learn in the documentaries or that kind of stuff. They don't necessarily talk about it. And so since we've got you on the horn, I thought I'd pick your brain for some real information that probably not a lot of people could give us. Yeah.
I love that. Well, I love talking about anything. I just love talking. Ask my husband. But I love talking about anything and things that are important to all of us, but I very rarely get asked with Star Trek, my martial arts stuff and all my other fakaka that I do. I'll get asked about weapons. I love guns and knives and all that. It's hard to believe I've been a vegan for 40 years. I wouldn't hurt an ant, but if you get in my way, I'll probably slice your head off. But but I do love weapons, and I do signing autographs and going to certain Star Trek conventions. People will give me some of the most amazing weapons, and it's so hard for me to bring them home. I have to get a different suitcase. It's not like I can take them through the TSA anymore.
Oh yeah. That's times have changed a little bit in that regard. I know
kidding.
when I watched that. Yeah, when I watched that little the little Klingon couple documentary, you were talking a little bit about kind of upping your physical fitness routine in preparation for Star Trek V. So I'm wondering, I know you were involved in things like bodybuilding and stuff like that beforehand. How much were you involved in that before Star Trek? And obviously you've continued it afterward. But what was pre-Star Trek and what was for Star Trek?
Well, I was on the road as a musician during the 70s, and I had 3 drug and alcohol overdoses and hit my knees in 1977, September 19th, and asked God to help me turn my life around. So I detoxed, cleaned out, got off the road, and came home, and I was signed to a record company to write music, but it wasn't enough money, so I got a job in a gym to make up for the extra money, and I learned how to work out in that gym. And I had medical knowledge before. I was a treatment nurse, a medical transcriber. I grew up in my father's laboratories. So I kind of, as I was cleaning out and detoxing, I learned a lot about swapping around medicinal knowledge for holistic knowledge. And I started working out and getting physically fit and started running and lifting weights. And I was in a gym, and a casting director came up to me, and she said, "Are you an actress?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, there's a movie coming out called Getting Physical, and we're going to be casting in about 4 months. But you have to look like a world-class bodybuilder." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she goes, "Well, here's my card. And call me when you think you're ready." So I got pulled in for the audition, and I was the only bodybuilder that could talk at the same time. They all looked great, but none of them could walk and talk. So I got the job, and it was with Sandal Bergman and Alexandra Paul, and it was called Getting Physical, and I played a world-class bodybuilder. And so I had that physicality, and I trained with. I'd be training, lifting weights, and all of a sudden Arnold would walk in. He used to call me the Beast because I could bench a lot. I eventually got up to benching 220, well, my max 235, and squatting 315. So I went into this bodybuilding world, eating healthy, detoxing, cleaning out. But when it came time to, and that's why my agent said, when she pitched me for Vix's, they were looking for a bodybuilder. They actually gave the role to Rachel McLeish, and she turned it down because she didn't like prosthetics on her face. And I'm like, damn, if you're an actress, are you kidding? You know how many witches, bitches, whores, alien creatures, biker broads, zombies. I mean, I have worn suits. I love, that's part of showbiz. I don't know what to say, but, she was not her whole life was not built around acting, so I can understand, she was friggin' beautiful. I mean, what a body. So it wasn't her thing. But the minute they said, you got to wear prosthetics, I'm like, what else is new? I've been putting them on me every, Halloween, whatever. So, so my body was, the thing I told Bill was, I said, look, I'm going to give you a special effects can't give you. I'm going to diet down. I'll give you a 21-inch waist. I'll give you a 13.5-inch biceps. I brought my body down to 6% body fat. So I truly wanted to create this lean, mean machine that truly looked like an alien. And in 1989, when we came out, Todd and I both looked, today you see women bodybuilders and you're like, damn. But it wasn't like that then, so we had created this look for it. I was already kind of big and muscular, but to diet down to 6% body fat really made it all pop. And so, thank God I didn't have to start from scratch, and neither did Todd. Todd was pretty well built too, being a surfer, and he was bodybuilding too. But when it came time to diet, I said, Todd, we got to be ripped. So we both, for 3 months, truly went down to a severe depletion diet, and we were ripped by the time we walked out on that set.
Yeah, it's something special when somebody's walking around and not flexing, and you can still see the definition in their arms.
Yeah, I know. Trust me. I still train. I'm not benching that heavy now. My max is maybe 185, and I'm not squatting that heavy. But I still run 5 miles every other day. I still lift 5 days a week. I teach martial arts. I'm a vegan, a food combining vegan, so I try and maintain my health. If I needed to, I'd need about 6 weeks to really shred up. But I don't go out for those roles anymore, so I just try and stay as healthy as I can, and flexible, strong, and capable of being able to defend myself. So, those are my desires in physicality.
Mhm. Yeah, and it seems like it brings you a lot of joy to do that. So that's a good thing. You can hear how excited you get talking about it.
Well, I teach, my partner and I, my business partner, Jennifer Silverstein, and I go all over the world, and we do 5-hour seminars on helping people learn street smart survival skills. And, if you want to call 911, it's going to take minutes for cops to get there and seconds for you to be injured or killed. And in today's world, we don't really live in a very, we have an amazing country. I'm a huge patriot, and I believe that we're safe from other countries. I love our president. I'm down with all that. But we don't have hand-to-hand combat in war anymore. We have hand-to-hand combat in the streets. And that's where you really need to know how to protect yourself. So I enjoy teaching other people who need to learn this stuff. I also enjoy teaching people who have been victims of crimes, because you can get all the therapy and read all the self-help books you want, but until you learn how to protect yourself physically, you'll always live as a victim. So it brings me great joy to bring victims to being victors. And so that's another part of my life.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a very good cause, and I would agree. I think it's important for anybody who's out there just walking the streets, particularly anybody who feels like they don't have that knowledge right now, to go out and seek it out. Everybody should have some basic knowledge on how to defend themselves, I think.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, you can go to my website. It's called ifightformylife.com. And, I have a lot of videos, and I have, flyers when I do seminars and things like that. But, we learn so many things, but we don't learn this one thing. It's one. And people are afraid to carry guns. I get it. People don't carry knives. I get it. But, ultimately, if you have a gun and a knife and you lose the gun and a knife, do you have any open hand knowledge? I mean, if you have to know how to get out of a choke or a grab or a rape or any of those things when you hit the ground, how to hit the ground. Human beings they're not taught that. If you live in Israel, it's mandatory. At 18 years old, you have to go into the army for 2 years. So they teach a lot of Krav Maga. But we don't do that in the United States. It's more like a privilege, like if somebody can afford to put you through a martial arts program. And you can't, my journey, I've been a martial artist for 40 years. So that's a long time to learn how to protect yourself. So the way Jennifer and I do is we've watered it down so that people could learn in 5 hours how to protect themselves. If you get on a plane and they tell you what to do in case of an air traffic accident, you got a 5-minute video, you better learn what to do in case somebody puts a gun to your head or a knife to your throat. Shouldn't take 30 years to figure that out. You should learn this stuff right away.
And listen, guys, we got to take another quick commercial break. We have a few more minutes left to talk with Spice. The phone number here is 646-668-2433, 646-668-2433. If you have a question about Star Trek V or about any of the projects that Spice has worked on over the years, or martial arts, bodybuilding, anything, just give us a call at 646-668-2433. And Spice will be more than happy to answer your questions. And we will be probably around for another 10 or 15 minutes anyways with Spice. So you still have time to give us a call, 646-668-2433. And when we come back, we're going to have Charles has a couple more questions for Spice before we run out of time. So we're talking with SpiceWilliams Vixis from Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Don't touch your dial. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
This is Chris from Trek Talking and Beyond, here to invite you to join us for the best science fiction themed podcast on the internet. Our elite team of Trexperts are here to discuss Star Trek and other sci-fi related content, and we want to hear from you. Dial 646-668-2433 on Thursday nights from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. on East Coast time. Hailing frequencies are always open, and we'll get you on the air to share your opinions. We have faith you will call.
And welcome back. We're here with SpiceWilliams, Vixis from Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Our number here is 646-668-2433. Charles, before we have to let Spice go, do you have any other questions you'd like to ask her?
Okay, as I'm going through our list of stunt work, I'm curious how it was to work on Maximum Surge.
Man, you sure know how to dig some of them out.
That's fine.
IDBM is a good source.
I had a blast. I played some biker chick. I had the weirdest. My prosthetic was actually once a face prosthetic for De Niro. I think he played Frankenstein or something. So they actually took that off and put it on me, and I had this spiky black and orange wig, and it was motorcycle stuff. It was very crazy, and it was the first time they had the those kind of game shows, and we were tagged every which way, and I had to fall off a bike this way, fall off a bike that way. I had to die like 20 different ways. So it was a pretty interesting show. That's all I have to say.
I think it's interesting work to saying, okay, I got credit for stunt work on a video game. It's like, okay, you get some interesting credits that pop up, interesting opportunities.
Yeah, well, they have a lot of that now. With the all the game shows today, all the all the first shooters and all that stuff like that. I mean, these guys are all over the place. I would love to be in some of those shows, but I mean, they got all these. They're taking all these actors now and tagging them out, and it's. It looks like a lot of fun and stuff like that. But that Maximum Ride was I think one of the first shows ever like that.
Oh, what's probably one of your other than Star Trek? What do you think is one of your more unique roles that you did that you're like, oh, I'm glad I did that specific doing acting, stunt work, anything like that?
Oh God, I've done over 200 films, and it's hard to say.
Any of
TV
them,
show? I mean,
anything especially memorable?
Well, I had fun doing From Dusk Till Dawn, playing two different vampires, getting killed by Tom Savini. I really enjoyed being in The Guyver with Mark Hamill and mutating into working with Michael Berryman. That was a lot of fun. And, I mean, I do like a lot of the sci-fi, but at the same time I had some great guest star roles on My Two Dads, Mama's Family, and that was 17 years on Days of Our Lives. That was fun, and I was doubling Deidre Hall for 17 years until they wanted me to do some acting roles. So then I had to get someone to stunt double me, or stunt double her while I was acting. I don't know. It's hard to say. You know, every job is a great job, and I mean, I've had some jobs where it wasn't so great, not because of the work, but because maybe some of the people were not so nice. But, I mean, I'm so grateful to work at all times. Right now, my biggest focus is on my films, my faith-based film shorts. I really love doing faith-based films, and I have 2 films right now, Duke and Talk to the Animals. They're on worldwide distribution. And I'm getting ready to do another film short with Michael Pare, who I absolutely love. He and I worked together on a film called Astro. And so my husband, I spent a lot of time, my husband, I don't know if you saw the movie Hacksaw Ridge. My husband wrote and produced Hacksaw Ridge. And he's got 10 one-hour miniseries on Nikola Tesla, and he is he's got so much stuff. So my joy and my hope is to start filtering into working on my husband's films. I mean, after all, I know the guy. So.
Now, before we run out of time, Spice, I just wanted to ask you a couple more questions. One of them in particular about Star Trek V. Do you feel that Star Trek V is a more of a faith-based movie than, say, some of the other Star Trek movies were?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And let me tell you something real quick about it. Final Frontier, the whole movie was, no matter how far out you go, God is inside of you. And I had a very dear friend who was dying of cancer. I called him up and I said, how you doing? And he said, I got 10 days left to live. And I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. You want to come see a premiere? You want to come to the premiere with me? And he's like, oh, I'm stuck in this hospital with chemo. And I go, screw it, you're going to die anyway. What the hell? So me and this one guy in my acting class who had a limo, I said, dude, you got to help me. So he and I snuck into this hospital, took him off the chemo, took him off all his IVs, everything, put him in the car, took him home, got him a tux. He was skin and bones, used to be a bodybuilder. Drove him I called the manager of the theater in Westwood. I said, this is what I got going. And he goes, no problem, we'll get you up on the balcony. So guy's name was Don. So Don and I, when we got out of the limo, walked down the red carpet, and he was just so overwhelmed. He said, I've never been in a limo. I've never been on the red carpet. He was blown away, and all the paparazzi was there. So we took him up to the balcony, And God, Gary Franklin and all the at the time the reporters that covered movies were there asking me questions, and everybody saw me up in the balcony. They were like, "Spice, make a muscle," and Don was there, and so we watched the movie, and it was amazing. I loved it, of course. And afterwards, I turned to Don and I said, "Don, what do you think? You having a good time?" And he said, "I think I'm ready for my final frontier." And
wow.
to this day, it still brings tears to my eyes because he did die 10 days later. It's like boom on the minute. But I was so happy I could do that for him. And the theater managers were amazing. Everybody was amazing. It was just a God-blessed moment. And Star Trek V, I really feel that there are no accidents in this universe. I really believe that I was meant to be in that film, and I believe that out of all of them was one that I was really meant to believe because I've been on the other side, and I believe that we are within, God is within us. I'm a big fan of God and Jesus, and I try and live my life in the light every day and have my conversation. What the hell's going on, Jesus? Help me out. And I just believe that that's such a great question you just asked me. I'm going to thank you for the rest of your life on that one because a lot of people don't realize that Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, was so much more than just a Star Trek sci-fi movie.
Well, a lot of people rag on the movie, don't like it because the premise was they go in search of God. But the line at the end of the movie when Captain Kirk says to Mr. Spock and Dr. McCoy, well, maybe God's not out there, maybe God's right here inside of us. And that line always stuck with me, and I've always loved Star Trek V.
That's so true, and people can rag on so much stuff because they're not in touch. They get embarrassed or they don't get it. And ultimately, I've helped a lot of people die and cross over, and it's their time. It's happening. And trust me, ultimately, when you're crossing over, you hope to God there's a God, and you hope to understand that it's not the materialistic bullshit that's around you, that you can have this one-on-one connection. And it's not just that maybe God is not out there. God is in here. And the one thing that I do love about a story, I'll tell you real quick, is that it's an old story about the young boy in the village. And all the elders were jealous because this young boy was considered a child of God. And they hated him, and they wanted to destroy him and make fun of him. But all the villagers knew that there was something special about this kid. So the elders got together, and they went over to this kid, and they said, little boy, we're going to give you an apple if you can show us where God is. And he said, sirs, I will give you an orange if you can show me where God is not. So people can pan that movie all they want. I think the only problem they had with that movie is that it was Ralph Winter and Harv Bennett that were in charge of the special effects. And they were supposed to get ILM, and they didn't, and they had some problems. So maybe the special effects were a little cheesy,
But the Klingons were awesome, though. The Klingons were incredible.
And you know what? Why shoot the messenger when the message is so great?
Well, Spice, congratulations on Star Trek V's 30th anniversary. I think a lot of the success of that movie is owed to you guys for playing such great Klingons. So congratulations. And I really appreciate you taking some time to hang out and chat with us. It's been really great. And hopefully we can get together and do it again. One more thing before I let you go. What are you working on? Is there any projects you're working on currently that you want to tell people about?
Well, I am working on this, my film, Life Goes On. I just finished a scary movie called Await the Dawn. That's with Dee Wallace, Bruce Davison, and Vernon Wells. And that's a scary movie. I finished that one. And then I just finished another one called Phoenix. That's kind of a thriller. That's going into a series. But I'm very close to doing my film Life Goes On, and it's with Michael Prey and myself, and it deals with suicides. And try, when you're in the darkest, deepest hole, how to look up to grab onto the ray of light and ask God to help you out of it. And it's a beautiful story about a woman who lost her son in the war and this man who lost his wife and child, and they come together to help each other through a horse, equine therapy, this horse that actually just pulls this guy out of it. It's a beautiful story. So yes, that's that, and then things are looking up for my husband's 10 one-hour miniseries, Tesla, and I don't know, God, I've got a big convention I'm excited about going to in October in Virginia, so just, everything's good. Everything's great.
Well, I've really enjoyed speaking with you again. You're always a pleasure, always a joy to have on. And just before I cut you loose, can you say something in Klingon for us? Okay. I love it.
Thank you.
That is so awesome.
I have to clean up my phone now because I've spit all over it.
Well, thank you very much for hanging out with us, Spice. We really, really appreciate it. And good luck with all your future endeavors.
All right, you guys. Hey, catch me on Facebook. Catch me on Facebook if you want. And good luck to you guys on everything.
Thanks a lot, Spice. Have a good night. Thanks for being with us.
You too. Take care. Thanks, guys.
That was SpiceWilliams, Vixus from Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. All of our shows can be found at Blog Talk Radio /Trek Talking. You can also find us on Facebook at Trek Talking and Beyond. Make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss a show. You can also hear us on Odyssey Radio, iTunes, Stitcher, and several other podcast services. Remember, if you want to go live and be part of Trek Talking and Beyond, we broadcast every Thursday night from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Stunt Trek with Uncle Jim and Leslie Hoffman every Sunday night from 7 to 8 p.m. and Comic Corner, the Star Trek edition, the second Monday of every month from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. All times are Eastern Standard Time. Just call 646-668-2433 during showtime. It's that simple. We wish to continue to expand our content and move into new and more exciting territories and provide our fans, like you, with more quality shows. We can't do this without your help. Please consider being a patron. We have several tiers, and I'm sure one will work for you. Thank you, and kapla!